All your dreams have just been crushed when you get that diagnosis. But the hope that we have in Jesus is something that is unmatched.
Our story started about 8 years ago with our daughter Brielle. So we had 3 kids, and Brielle was our 4th little one. And when she was in utero, we knew that there was some anomalies going on. We didn't know exactly what that meant until she was born. And once Brielle was born, she was loaded with diagnosis and different medical complexities that she had. Every day with Brielle is hard. Her physical demands are a lot. She needs care for everything that she can do, from eating to sitting up to even assisting breathing at night with her machines. We had decided to take a family trip to Vermont, and so all of us were loaded up in the van, and we had gotten all the way to our location, which I think was 14 hours away, and Brielle seemed a little off, so before we even checked into our Airbnb, I happened to take her temperature, and it was a high temperature. It was like 101, 102, and then the next thing is we pulled out the pulse ox to see what her oxygen level was at, and her oxygen was low, so thankfully we had some oxygen tanks, and we hooked them up to her, but we realized there was no way that we would be able to stay there, that we'd need to turn around and go home, because Brielle's care is so complex. Going into any children's hospital isn't really an option for us, so we had 2 options to it. Either we drive home, or we are stuck in Vermont without any family into a hospital that isn't going to know her and know her extreme care. So we turned around and started the 14-hour drive back after having already driven 6 hours that day. And as we're driving, the oxygen tanks started depleting. And we are pretty good at knowing and calculating how much oxygen is needed to get through a tank, and it was very apparent that there was no way we were going to make it.
And the pulse ox blew the circuit for the car charger, so we couldn't charge that anymore. And that's what tells us what her heart rate is at and her oxygen levels are at. And so we're having to manage while white knuckle driving at night. What is her numbers? Can we turn it on? Can we turn it off? It was frightening.
The oxygen keeps getting lower and lower, and we have 1 tank left, and we're checking it every 5 minutes. It's in the lowest range. It's supposed to be going out. We go back and check it 5 minutes later, and it continues to go. I check it 15 minutes later, and this empty tank just continues to produce oxygen, and it produced it for another 3 to 4 hours that it should not have done. And so with that, we were able to make it to U of M, and it was just this peace that was in the car that we're gonna make it. He just kept sustaining it. And as we pulled into U of M is when the oxygen had ran out. So long, I think before, I always thought grief and joy were 2 separate things, that you couldn't have grief but also have joy. And through our journey with Brielle, we've learned that even though there's a level of grief and hard that comes with it, that when you have Christ in your life, there's this joy that can come. And it doesn't always look like what the world wants us to believe, that it means that everything's perfect, that Brielle is healed. It means just the everyday, mundane things that God shines out. It's been a big learning curve too for us when Brielle was born, praying for healing and having those conversations with God, but then God also saying, like, am I still good even if he doesn't heal her? And being able to answer that, yes, you are still good. You are still good if she's never healed.